Greetings everyone, welcome back. My video on contracting the land went down very well. It seems people are fascinated by Taoist transformation magic. As you know, there are two forms of transformation skills, those of man, the internal, and those of the external. I want to cover some of the external practices first before we move on to the next category. In this video, I will cover Taoist Telekinesis and Levitation, how it can be practiced and how you can activate the skill. I want you to know up front, I am not a master of telekinesis or levitation. I mostly specialize in weather magic, but these spells fascinate me, so let's dive in. Firstly, what is telekinesis? It is the cosmic ability to be able to move, transform, and change objects without having to physically interact with them. By using mental and energetic power, one can influence the physical world of matter without having to actually touch it. This skill is by no means unique to the Taoist system of magic. In fact, almost every culture and tradition has some form of psychic-based movement, where the body is not required to move the object. What is unique to the Taoist tradition is the practice of the skill. Taoists believe in three different bodies: the physical body, the energy body, and the spirit body. When a Taoist practices this skill, he or she will usually be able to extend their energy and spirit bodies across a large distance from their earthly body. The arm of the energy body and spirit body will be able to reach outwards to grab an item. So imagine we are reaching out to grab my feathered fan here. You should first extend your earthly arms towards the direction of the desired object. Reach out towards the object and visualize your energy and spirit arms reaching out. These arms are much longer, have a much greater reach, and they are also much stronger. If you have a good energy reserve, meaning if you have a lot of extra Qi stored in your body, you should be able to lift double what you can lift with your earthly arms, and it shouldn't be too much of a struggle. Personally, I've never been able to actually move an object with telekinesis. All I've been able to do so far is to feel an object with my energy bodies. I am not a psychic by any means, and any magical ability I have has been cultivated through years and years of practice. I'm a weather magician first and foremost, not a master of psychic power, but I still know a lot about it. So if you are a novice to this magic, start off with a very light object. In the same way, if you are new to exercising and working out, you want to start with light weights first to avoid injury. Once your spirit and energy arms make contact with the object, visualize that you are holding the object very tightly, very firmly. It can take Taoists years and years to establish a strong grip. It's common for beginners to drop objects or to lose connection with their spirit and energy bodies, so don't worry about it too much. Once you have locked onto the object, be as focused as you can be. Do not take your eyes off it, do not blink, never blink in fact. This is known as the magician's gaze. Do not think about anything, but focus and meditate on this thought. I am going to move this object. I am going to lift this object. You can use mantras and affirmations to accomplish this, because you need to affirm that you are in control. Once you have a hold of the object, you need to send shock waves of Qi through your spirit arms, down your energy arms, and into the object's energy field. You are basically sending electricity, plasma, and life force out of your own physical body into your spirit arms and directly into whatever you are trying to move. This requires an enormous amount of Qi, and this Qi originates from the core of the magician, and from there it quickly emits all across the three different bodies. Once the spirit and energy arms have made contact, you can then move the object by telekinesis. Those who are new to Taoist telekinesis will usually face the following problem. The further out your ethereal body goes, the weaker it will be. So if you're trying this for the first time and you want to move an object that's at a different side of a large room, Your spirit and energy arms will probably become tired and the power will fail. Start by interacting with something that is about 4 feet away from you first. These are the guidelines. Start light, start small, start close. When you begin using telekinesis for the first time, you will want to make good use of the colors purple and indigo. Those are very effective for stimulating psychic abilities. For example, using a purple candle, wearing a purple robe, or a purple crystal whilst practicing this skill. This will greatly aid your practice. When you first start with using your energy and spirit arms, when you touch an object, you probably won't feel it at first, because your new hands will be numb and disconnected. When I first began developing my energy hands, I had trouble feeling textures of objects. Everything felt dead. Everything felt the same, no sensation. So I started interacting with objects that had a very distinct texture to them. So things with rough surfaces. I found that anything with a smooth texture or finish to it, I couldn't feel it with my energy body. So in the early days, all I could feel were things like the bark on a tree because it felt very rough. So start off with feeling something, not always with moving it. I mentioned earlier in the video the similarities between physical exercise and telekinesis. If you lift a dumbbell and it's too heavy for you to curl, you're going to injure yourself. The spirit and energy bodies can also get injured. So if you attempt to move something via psychic power that's just too heavy and awkward, you could pull an energetic muscle. And believe it or not, the energy body takes longer to heal than the physical body. So a lot of people think that telekinetic energy comes from the mind or the head. In Taoism, it mostly comes from the core of the body. When I first started using this skill, I could not get it to work at all. I found out that I couldn't really move anything because I had a very weak core. My lower and middle dantians were underdeveloped. So I did dantian cultivation exercises in the form of breathing meditation, and I was able to come back a few weeks later and I was able to feel objects. Like I said, I can't move anything, but I can use my spirit hands and my spirit body to feel the textures of certain objects. Those in the Western world would know that the aura, the human energy field, which is electromagnetic in essence, this force surrounds our bodies and is responsible for the function of telekinesis. So before you practice this skill, it is better to first expand your own energy bodies or your own aura. Because the aura changes, it's never static. It greatly depends on the health, well-being, and mood of the person. If you try to practice telekinesis whilst you are depressed or anxious, you will have less chance of the skill actually working because these lower vibrational emotions significantly reduce the range of a person's energy bodies. I think if I remember correctly, sadness is the one that reduces it the most. One thing you must understand about Taoism, it's not just a spiritual or magical system, but it's a scientific system. What we call Taoist Magick today was simply called science in ancient times. Because telekinesis is an external power that works with external things, it will benefit the practitioner to understand that reality itself is not entirely solid. The illusion of matter and solidity. Believing that reality is solid and it cannot be manipulated is like a prison mindset for most people. That doesn't mean that nothing exists. It means that it's just not as solid as we believe it to be. Therefore, things can be molded and shaped in accordance to our wishes. The main ingredients in getting telekinesis to work are Qi and Shen. Qi, of course, being energy, life force, and Shen meaning soul, spirit, consciousness, or psyche. Qi is mostly gathered from breathing, eating, and sleeping, whilst Shen is gathered by committing acts of kindness, forgiveness, benevolence, self-control, and by living in accordance with the Tao. And Shen is further nurtured by listening to music and being creative, which explains why a lot of magicians who practice telekinesis are also artists, painters, writers, creative people. They're naturally good with this skill. There are two main Taoist methods of telekinetic power. one known as assistance-based telekinesis and the other true telekinesis. Assistance-based power is when a magician petitions or calls upon the assistance of various spirits, deities, demons, and immortals in order to help the magician move an object. So if you call forth an entity and allow that entity to possess you in order to practice the skill, this is considered a lesser power to true telekinesis, which is mostly based on telekinetic power that originates from the mind, body, and soul of the magician. No spirits needed. These people are called mystics. Those who are starting out, though, in my opinion, should ask for a deity to be present. This will help you quite a bit. Now, there's a whole legion of gods and spirits and immortals you could call forth here. It really depends on who you have a good relationship with. I personally like to work alongside Zhuo Se, who is known as Master Blackhorn, a Taoist magician who was once a mortal man, once a human, and then he became a very powerful wizard. He was said to have lived to the age of 300 and would go long periods without eating and without sleeping, and then he became an immortal. I like to use Zhuo Se because he was once one of us, a person walking the earth, not a god or a demon who has no concept of earthly existence. Another spirit you may wish to call forth for telekinesis is the Chinese entity Penghu, depicted as a giant covered in hair. In Chinese mythology, Penghu is viewed as the creator of all. When he died, his final breath created the wind and the clouds. His voice became thunder, his left eye became the sun, and his right eye the moon. He is also said to have separated yin from yang, making him the perfect entity to use for external transformation magic. You can also request help from demons if you want to as well. Now, for those who are interested in using telekinesis to protect yourself from others or to curse others, this falls under the category of yin telekinesis, okay, yin, which is generally dark and destructive in nature. There is a method known as telekinetic choking, where the magician must be sitting in the same room as the target. He or she must visualize, once again, the spirit and energy arms, but this time you have to direct them to the throat and neck area of the victim. You can do this to scare the victim, to hurt them, or to send them on their way, if you know what I mean. I don't really advocate baneful magic, but it's still interesting to know your options. Another kind is elemental telekinesis, and this one is pretty much weather magic, and it's the only form of telekinesis I've been able to fully practice. It's what I mostly use on a weekly basis. As a weather magician, I am able to move clouds, change their shapes, and split them in two in order to stop or summon rain. In weather magic, we call this training cloud Qi. You can also use telekinetic energy to destroy and smash objects as well. This skill is known as vibration emission, where the magician vibrates a powerful sudden burst of Qi, emitting it from his or her core. The vibrations will cause the object and its atoms to separate, resulting in the object shattering. This kind of skill takes a lot longer to learn. An example of yang telekinesis is where the magician uses this skill to heal himself or others. If you get into a car accident, just an example, and you get badly hurt, you could use the method of telekinetic regeneration, which stimulates the action of self-healing by targeting specific cells within the body. These cells will become energized, and therefore they will heal the damaged tissues far more quickly when you use this skill. I have found personally, whenever I try telekinesis, it's harder to get into the zone when I'm in a room or a building that has wireless internet or a TV. I'm not sure why this is, but when I turn off my Wi-Fi, My skills of feeling and interacting with objects becomes a lot more refined. It gets easy when there is no Wi-Fi running through the place. It has something to do with the technology and the radiation that comes from devices like the microwave, phones, radios, telekinesis. You see, there's a connection. I think the TV is the worst one for me. It makes me think about the ancient Chinese magicians. They didn't have the technology working against them, did they? There wasn't any frequencies running through the air back then. In a lot of ways, it's harder than ever to actually practice magic. So if you're struggling with telekinesis, turn off your tech and try to practice in a place without any interference. If you still can't do it, grab some light items and go to the woods. When in doubt, always go to the woods. A lot of ancient Taoists use herbs in order to accomplish transformation spells. Because telekinesis requires a lot of Qi and Shen, it's important that you don't exhaust your life essence, as this could lead to illness. I've heard stories of practitioners who have jumped in headfirst with telekinesis, trying their first proper spell, and they would pass out, physically pass out, because the practice is so draining and demanding. In extreme cases, death is also possible if you don't protect Qi and Shen. In order to replenish the Qi and Shen and prevent exhaustion, there are magical herbs, spices, and plants known as superior herbs. I'll cover this in detail at a later date, but I like to use cinnamon and I like to burn it as an incense whilst I'm doing the visualizations for telekinesis. Another useful one is aniseed. It's great to use in order to enhance one's psychic abilities. It works by raising the vibration of the magician to the highest level possible. Whenever I practice, I also place a lot of importance on being in harmony with my surroundings. So if the telekinesis, for whatever reason, doesn't want to work that day, then I don't force it to work, because when you force something magical to happen, you are always fighting a losing battle. These skills should feel like second nature. Spirituality shouldn't feel like a 9-to-5 job. It should feel like freedom. The whole concept of Wu Wei, literally meaning non-action, does not always translate to doing nothing. It can mean doing something that feels so easy, so natural, that it feels effortless. The best things in life feel effortless. The action of non-action. So if the telekinesis isn't working, I accept it and I try again another time when I feel it's right. Usually when I get back to the practice in a week or so, I have a better, more fulfilling experience. That right there is the golden rule of Taoism. Effortless action. We've all seen those famous clips and images of Taoist masters and Buddhist monks levitating in midair. Usually they perform the skill in the lotus meditation position by using a great deal of Qi that they have built up in their reserves. It can take years to reserve this amount of Qi, and the Qi you need for levitation, in my opinion, is Yang energy, because Yang is heavenly and light, whilst Yin is solid, earthly, and heavy. So if you practice levitation, you don't want to be solid and heavy. The whole idea of levitation is to become lighter than the air around you, and you accomplish this by creating Yang Qi from your core. You've probably heard that heat rises. So when using Yang Qi, the purpose of this is to raise your body's core temperature. The warmer you get, the lighter you will become. Warmer energy is less dense than colder energy, and warmer air is lighter. I have heard of Taoists who do use yin energy, which is cold. This method is a bit different. Instead of making yourself light, you focus on creating a ball or a sphere of solid, dense yin energy, which is freezing, and you sit on this ball, and that's how you get lifted up from the ground. The ball of yin qi is so solid and so cold that sometimes it can cause mist or fog to form around the magician. So in conclusion, I'm going to give you my last thoughts on levitation and telekinesis. I'm going to be really honest. I have never levitated ever. and I haven't really been able to consistently practice telekinesis. It's very on and off. Sometimes I think it works, other times it just doesn't. I'm really not able to move an object. I've never actually moved anything, but I am able to feel the object, and when I use weather magic, I can move clouds. So I guess in some ways I have been semi-successful. However, I think I need to keep going. It's one of those kinds of practices that the more you put into it, the more you get out. And I do believe in both skills. I just think they require enormous amounts of Qi, more than what I currently possess. So thank you for watching, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you soon.